Hi and welcome to another What's Current podcast from NAPIT, and today I am joined by Lee Halliday from BrightSource. Welcome, Lee.
Hello.
And Lee, so just for starters for 10 then, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what's been going on with you and where BrightSource is as well. Perhaps introduce that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I've been in lighting for around about 15 years, and emergency lighting's kind of been my specialism throughout that time. It's somewhere where I've naturally sort of found myself working. I joined BrightSource around about 10 months ago to set up a projects team within for BrightSource. So it's a long-standing lighting brand that's found its way to the UK market through various means, but it's never really been specifically pointed at supporting contractors with lighting design and lighting projects. So as a result of that role, I'm director of the business, and we recruited a lighting designer who's a specialist in lighting design. So she's responsible for making sure that we kind of get everything right in terms of what we put in front of our customers. And yeah, so it's all about kind of providing a holistic solution to lighting requirements on any given project, including mains lighting, emergency lighting, and the lighting controls, wrapping that all up together.
Anything lighting, you've got it covered.
Anything
basically.
lighting, you've got it covered.
So it's like a one-stop solution, really, isn't it? Because I think to my days back on the tools, and that would have been quite disjointed from a point of view of, we spoke a little bit earlier off camera where, I remember that would be the design team would look after that. The wholesalers perhaps had a solution for you, but it was a bit bitty where you remember those days probably. Absolutely. Where the wholesaler could say, oh, we'll do your design for you, but it was never filled me with confidence when a wholesaler was doing that, because that would have been outsourced, I presume, by a design person like you've got at the moment.
Well, exactly, and we sort of manage the products themselves, so okay. We ensure that with our mains lighting range, it's a BrightSource range of products that we sort of source to what we know is the requirement of the projects. We take a little bit of a different view with emergency lighting. We use partners that are specialists in providing that level of kit, and we sort of piece that together. So my previous role before I started working at BrightSource in my current job was a project sales engineer for Eaton in the emergency lighting team. So that was a very sort of interesting role, but I sat in so many project meetings where you've got an installing contractor that was kind of caught in the middle of this sort of web, and they've got a mains lighting supplier, an emergency lighting supplier, and a lighting control supplier. And if there was any issue with the integration of all that kit, everybody kind of pointed to the person to the left.
Yeah.
So it's not as it's
blame game.
Yeah. And the contractor were kind of left sort of spinning round. So what we've sort of said is the approach is very much, let's take the contractor out of that position and put ourselves into that position. So we're part of that triangle, but also in the centre of it. And we will do the legwork to make sure that any system that's got to integrate with a control system or a mains lighting system or an emergency lighting system, it all fits together.
It's already done as a package thing. That's really cool. And it's something you mentioned there, which I remember again. I sound like this old spot back in my day, but what I remember is those kind of control systems. Bearing in mind, I was on the tools, late 80s, early 90s, and sort of throughout that 20-year period, I saw that evolution of those control systems from like your very basic Lutron, which was the only players in the game almost, to more complex digital systems. They were very analog before, and we spoke before about that with your binary switches in systems. I mean, imagine that's just moved on leaps and bounds now. But like you say, that compatibility with the products is also key, isn't it, to making it work properly?
Absolutely. I mean, with any sort of building and project, you need the mains lighting, and pretty much by default you need the emergency lighting. The controls is that added extra that gives the client a load of benefits, cost savings, and all the rest of it. And that integration is the critical thing. It's absolutely critical to get that right.
I suppose there's lots of different systems out there now that will do that control weird and wonderful things. And as that technology moves forward, I suppose you've got a lot more choice to meet a client's needs.
Exactly, and this is why we've taken a very much an open market approach to both the lighting controls and the emergency lighting. So we work with industry experts and we, like I say, it's an open market approach. It's very agnostic in terms of we find the right solution for the contractor that's going to work based on the application.
Yeah, and that's the build in use and what it's used for. Yeah,
exactly.
So it's not like you're suggesting, we only go with these particular products or solutions. You've got a wide range. That's quite good. There's no sort of agenda there is there really?
And it doesn't really make any difference to us which supplier the customer chooses. We just make sure it works. We make recommendations, of course, using our expertise to make sure that it's an appropriate system. But ultimately, it's down to client choice, installer choice, whoever makes that decision. And we're there to sort of find the right options and put them forward.
How does that work if, just off the top of my head, how does that work if a job's spec'd, so the client, sometimes they come with very, we want this, you just have to make that work, I presume, round the client then, or you might point them in a different direction and said, have you considered this at that stage, design stage?
Exactly, yeah, it depends on the flexibility within the project.
Yeah.
Some projects it's a done deal before before a contractor gets appointed, in which case sort of the hands are tied. But yeah, certainly when they're looking at options and they've got the freedom of choice, but the option of choice, then we regard ourselves as being a perfect fit for finding them the right solution. Because as you said, there's so many different systems. It was a strategic decision on my part to sort of sit and say, should we actually go out and devise and engineer and bring to market our own control system?
Yeah.
And the answer was really, no, you're better off sort of having a choice of half a dozen, 10, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And sort of saying, actually, that works better, rather than trying to shoehorn hours into to what might not be the right application.
Yeah.
And we see that from alternative suppliers. Sometimes that does happen, where it's kind of, obviously as a salesperson trying to sell a particular system, and if that's the only system you've got to sell, you've got to try and make it work.
Of course you have, yeah.
But that flexibility that we have, I'll give you a good example. We saw a specification for a job where there was a central battery being used for the internal of the building, and the external of the building, where there's more exposure to sort of temperature fluctuations for batteries and things, was self-contained. So it makes sense for us to make recommendations. Actually, there's a better way of doing it. You can actually incorporate that onto the central battery. It's a very obvious example.
Yeah. No, that works well. There's integrating other parts of the building and the systems that are already there. Seems like a sensible option.
Yeah.
And I suppose the earlier you get in is key, isn't it? I would have thought if you come quite late to a project in the design phase, that creates further hurdles for you. So I would just thinking out loud, I think you've got to get in right at ground level, haven't you, so you've got that clean slate.
Exactly, yeah. So there's a bit of a mixture. Our primary target is, when I set the team up, it was a very clear objective of, let's save installing contractors some money.
Yeah.
So if they've got a specified job, if there is room for sort of change, we can help them make that change, get the right system in front of them, and achieve some cost savings. That's the aim of me and my team. That's what we do. However, coupled with that, so today I'm off down to Birmingham after our meeting.
My old stomping ground.
My old stomping ground. You can tell by your lovely accent. So I'm off down to Birmingham, and that's to meet with a consultant to talk about getting specified into projects.
Oh, okay.
So the more we can do that, the better it is for us, but the easier it is for us then to sort of follow that design through, as you say, and actually help the contractor when he gets to install. Because we're very much, and again, I've seen this in the project world, where it's sort of, we get specified and we almost leave the contractor to it, and we're comfortable little stick, so we're not going to really support the contractor, but we're very holistic. We want to go from very early stage to very late stage.
Yeah, that was one of my talking points with you, really, because I thought that when these systems in place, there's probably a myth in the industry that you think of the design and sort of then it's been spec'd and you know what you're using, but sometimes that equipment will land for the installer and they haven't got a clue what's going on. I remember that happening with Lutron systems I've installed, where I'm on the phone to someone abroad trying to work out how the thing works. What is that support like, and the service you offer? You're quite bespoke because you're offering an individual solution. Is that, like you said, from very early on right through to almost post-install?
Yeah, absolutely that. We saw the process is we work on the design from a desk, essentially. We can do site surveys if need be, absolutely. Having got the layout drawings, we can work on the design. We get that back to the contractor in terms of to demonstrate lighting levels in any given area. That's just an absolute fundamental of what we do.
Yeah, that won't change ever.
That will never change. We also provide CAD drawings, so they've got sight of all the kind of the paper drawings, if you like. But then it's about a pre-install meeting. So as part of our process, we hold that pre-install meeting to make sure that the contractor is fully aware of all the elements of the design, how it goes together, and give them the opportunity to ask any questions that they might have
That
at
is
that
brilliant.
point.
Yeah.
So, and this is something from my past experience that hasn't been done, when it's not done particularly well, it falls over quite quickly.
Yeah.
The contractor. The worst thing that can happen for the contractor is if they go down the road of install and find out 50% through that install that it's actually been done incorrectly.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money to start on doing things and rewiring or whatever it may entail.
Yeah, from an installer background, I've been there with that situation where the practicalities of installing the pieces of kit and the compatibility, like we've mentioned, doesn't quite work, and at least then they've got a solution to say, right, we need to speak to someone technical from your team and go, well, actually, we'll do a site visit, maybe come out and see what's going on and get a solution for you, so they're not left stuck then, are they?
Yeah, exactly, and that's something that we're very sort of particular about with working with the suppliers that we work with. Like I've mentioned, for the lighting controls and the emergency lighting, that support has to be there. We facilitate it all. For the contractor, they just need to talk to us. We do the legwork, we get people to site, but that is absolutely part and parcel of what we do.
That's such a relief for the contractor, because like you say, the installer's got a million things going on, not just the lighting, everything else within that electrical install's going on, so that's like something you've taken away from them, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, when we're setting out to do this, we all know there's a myriad of lighting suppliers out there. So for us it was really about the products are the products, and the products are very good, absolutely. But it's really about the service elements and the solution sell that we really wanted to focus on. And I always say to customers, we're almost like a bit of a consultancy.
Yeah.
So we work to find the right solution more than just sell some product for an application.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what sets us apart. And that's done by our strategic design. That's what we're aiming for.
Yeah. Are you finding the growth in that and the customer engagement? Has it been a valuable thing where people go, oh, thank goodness this is here, we need it?
Yeah, it's really positive.
Good.
And yeah, absolutely. So the customers are very sort of, finally, we've got somebody that we can work with that we know actually can take care of everything that we need to take care of.
Brilliant. So it is. I wish it was back there in my day. I must have been involved in sort of the install, a bit of design and estimating as well. I've seen it all, and I've seen that disjointedness that sometimes just can frustrate, but having a solution like that works. Just on size of that as well, Lee, what kind of, in my head, probably wrongly, I'm thinking that's more of your bigger contracts, sort of your industrial, commercial. Does it ever go down to that domestic level? Have you got clients?
Yes, we've got products and we've got customers that deal at a domestic level.
Yeah.
For us, it's all relative. If you're working on a huge new industrial unit or university building, something like that, there's a lot more work involved than there is in a smaller sort of conversion from a pub to sort of domestic dwelling.
Yeah. They turn it into flats or something like that.
Yeah. Flats, yeah. So, but we do both. We offer a full service to all our customers. We do, it's no job too small kind of thing.
Yeah.
The smaller jobs inherently take less time anyway. But we offer the same levels of support for those jobs.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, I came from a commercial industrial background and dropped into sort of the domestic market later on in my career on the tools. But I'm thinking, as I was coming off the tools, I noticed that, the energy efficiency and the stuff we was putting in, normal domestic, sort of 2 up, 2 down kind of dwellings was a lot different from, your normal lamps. So, you think about LEDs, how we're turning them on and off. The controls for that are a lot more complex than just the standard sort of lighting systems we used to back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And with domestic things like Casambi come into play, so the Casambi controls, we've made sure we've got solutions for. We really sort of sat and looked at the market and thought, well, what does each element require? And domestic does require a little bit of a different approach. So there's some similarities, obviously, but it is a bit different to sort of commercial and industrial applications. So we made sure that we got solutions for all of those. Hannah, who is our lighting designer, she also is the projects coordinator. So she kind of pulls the solution together, does all the design work on it. Her background, she's done a lot of domestic, high-end domestic for Premier League footballers. She's worked on their sort of houses. Yeah. So
swanky
houses
with swimming pools.
Yeah, plastering fittings and all that kind of stuff. So so we've got all that. We kind of, it was great to have her because that's her experience to be able to pull on and sort of drive that solution. So we do everything from domestic to commercial, industrial, external. like I say, the first thing that I did were go out and expand our product offering really.
Yeah.
So you know, if it's an anti-ligature fitting, we can find it.
Mm.
And if we don't have it as part of the range, we've got an extended sort of supply chain that's quite vast, well established and well managed. So we're in a very fortunate position that we can easily hit another supplier to find what is needed for that particular product.
Especially if it's a bespoke product that's needed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, some funky light that no one's ever heard of, or
exactly.
installing them. And I suppose from your point of view, with your ethos of what you said at the beginning is, you know, saving that contractor money at the end of the day and making it a bit of a streamlined approach to it, which is, if you streamline something like, you know, it is hopefully going to save you money in the long run. But I presume your products are spec'd really well as well, aren't they? So the things you use, the suppliers you go to, you're making sure that it's not spurious stuff, it's proper quality products that the client ends up with. That,
absolutely. I mean, we're part of the LIA, so we are an LIA company. We are going through the process at the minute of going through the LIA quality audit as well, which is something that we wanted to do. It's given us a great opportunity to sort of review our quality processes and make sure that everything we take to market is absolutely hitting the nail on the head, and that's critical for us, because I see that the most important thing to what it is that we're doing is repeat business. That's where we'll get the growth and the success that we as a business are striving for.
Yeah.
So it's only through delivering that continued quality that we're going to get that.
Yeah.
So the LIA QA process, it's quite involved.
I can imagine,
yeah. So we sort of said, look, let's get everything that we currently do on the table, and almost like, yeah, that's great. We can keep that. Let's bin it. You know, let's rewrite that, and we're going through that as we speak. I had a meeting. Today's Wednesday, Monday, and that's a continual progression through that process.
Yeah.
And we're doing that. We want to be able to provide the comfort that everything's kind of quality checked, everything's fit for purpose. We do a lot of checking in our facility in Leeds. So we've got testing facilities, we've got a testing sphere, so we can test the photometrics. Everything's kind of as it should be when it hits the contract.
I can feel a visit coming onto your place. I'd be fascinated with all this stuff. Yeah.
You're always welcome.
Yeah, because you know, for our members and our listeners to this podcast, you know, this is an unseen world for a lot of them that they don't get to see behind the scenes, like I alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
You know, if this is sat just with the design team, you know, then we spoke off camera about a little bit of, you just get the spec, you fit in this lighting and these controls and just get on with it. At least now the installer gets an insight into what's going on, so they're better informed, which creates better installs in the long run. And from a fault finding point of view, when things do go wrong, you know, if you've got to go back to that and get you guys involved again, the client's not happy about something, that installer's better armed to give them the right information, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just on that point, we do pick up, so we offer a 12-month warranty, return to site warranty anyway. Yeah. So we sort of pick up that initial period anyway. But yeah, absolutely, that's what it's all about. We want the contractors to drive what it is that they want as well. So we have the ability to sort of pre-flex fittings if that's, you know, put a particular plug on it if they want to use a pre-flex system. So we have the ability to sort of adapt the fittings so that when they get to site, the install could be done by
a bit of plug and play.
A bit of plug and play.
Yeah. Love those days.
Everybody loves a bit of plug and play.
If I ain't got to do a connection, I'm all for that. Yeah.
And it's very much about what is important to the contractor. How can we help them? How can we streamline, like as you say, make their life easy? And that's what we're kind of here to do, and that all saves them money as well.
Yeah. I suppose just as a coming to a close, then, what's some of the projects that you can think of that come to mind? It might have been your first one you ever did, where you would have been, that's a deep breath, here we go. But you've got all that experience in the background. What sort of a case study you can give us an example of, one that you're really proud of, or maybe one where you've encountered warts and all where you thought, it didn't go so well, you know, because it's a learning process for you, isn't it, as a company?
Yeah, I mean, there's a good one that we did quite recently for a college, which I won't name, but we did a site survey for a college building, and that was really interesting because it got absolutely fantastic facilities. So they've got everything from like a car garage to teach mechanics to commercial kitchens for teaching catering and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there were a massive variance of products. So when we were pulling together the solution, it was a bit of a challenge to sort of out. There was sports hall, there were everything, you know, so we had to sort of hit all the points. We've also, and where I see that we can add value and this is from a personal thing, is with the emergency lighting. So on that particular instance, the emergency lighting needed a bit of work. So this is a live project, by the way, but we can always make recommendations around that sort of requirement as well. So for the client, for the contractor working with us, we can then give client benefits which will help validate and increase the credibility of the contractor. So that's something where we can add value to the contractors. So obviously we're here as a, let's say as a sounding board, is probably overstating it, but we're here as a point of reference and a point of support to installing contractors to help them with those kind of inquiries.
And I, like you mentioned there, with the emergency lighting, I think that's another one in industry, a bit like fire alarms, where the electricians I work with, they've dabbled in it, they sort of got a basic understanding, but actually the emergency lighting would be really useful for electricians to have a better understanding of what's required, the British and European standards that are important, and making colleges, which are basically government buildings, they need to comply, don't they? Because you've got to comply with that to make sure people are safe. So there's that aspect to it as well, which people forget. It's not just I've got some pretty lighting for a particular area, which in that college, I presume you would have had to break that down, like you said, into individual areas. The requirements would have been. So I suppose in that project, you like you say, you're getting little bits and not looking at the whole, which would have been, how do we do this? But saying, right, in this area we need this, we need it to integrate with this part, and so
And that's the beauty of having, like I say, an agnostic approach to it, because you could end up in a situation where you kind of go, well, the right lighting control system for that area is X, but for another area over here, or the other side of the building, it's actually Y. And there is the ability to mix and match that, and we can integrate with BMS or whatever it might be, so we pull it all together for the client.
Oh, it's such clever stuff, aren't you? I'm a bit of an electrical geek, so all this kind of stuff, I'm like, I love it, I want to know more, so we'll be speaking more. I'll be speaking more. So Lee, just finally then, if people want to know a little bit more, there might be obviously designers, installers, clients, potential clients out there that want to know a little bit more about what you do and maybe get in touch. I presume website, get in contact. How would they find out about you?
So we've got our website, BrightSource.uk.com. So if people go on there, they can see what we do. All the contact details are on there, so they can reach out to the projects team. Obviously, I'm available on LinkedIn as well. And anybody can contact me directly. lee.halliday@brightsourceuk.com. So feel free to send me an email. I'm always happy to speak to people, and and we can begin the support.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for your time today, Lee. It's been fascinating learning about what you guys do, and like I say, I'm going to try and get up next time I'm up this way for a little bit of a visit to you, and maybe we'll talk more about specifics like emergency lighting in a future podcast or a webinar. Thanks for your time,
fantastic.
Lee.
Thank you, Steve. Cheers.
So thank you for listening to another What's Current podcast. Hope you enjoyed that one. You've got the contact details for BrightSource, and hopefully see you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.